What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the On the Bubble podcast. This is the last episode we were on last Sunday, so it's been a little while. We've had a lot of games since then, and a lot of marquee games since then to talk about. And now we're gonna preview Feast Week, this upcoming week. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting with the Champions Classic that was on Tuesday. Starting with a game that got out of hand in the first half. In the first half, which is really surprising. I think no one really expected that. Kentucky versus Michigan State. Michigan State shot the lights out. 50% of their shots, 50% of their threes as well. For Kentucky, they could really never respond after MSU shot the lights out. What were your guys' thoughts on this game?
Yeah, basically you summed it up pretty good. MSU, like you said, shot the lights out. They didn't really shoot the greatest beforehand, but they really performed against Kentucky. Um, yeah, Kentucky fell too far behind early on to really ever come back. So props to Michigan State. They shot great again. So, and if they keep shooting like that, and their front court's been playing good too. So, um, Michigan State looks really good in that game, and Kentucky I think will be fine, but a little bit of a mishap running into Michigan State there.
Yeah, Kentucky looks out of sorts. You had Mark Pope taking 45 minutes to go speak to the media after there was drama and everybody's freaking out in Lexington. I think they'll be okay. I was thoroughly impressed with Michigan State. I did pick them to win. I didn't pick them to shoot 50% from the field and 50% from three.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they're a very clean 32 of 64 overall, 11 of 22 from deep. And Kentucky lost by almost 20, even after taking 12 more free throws than Michigan State, which I feel like you don't kind of see often with the blowout. But Michigan State's balance was really on display. Jackson Kohler with 20 points, Trey Fort with 13. I mean, I think that's a Samford transfer. I think once he gets adjusted to playing, high major basketball where he can be maybe their best scorer. He's just a great shooter. He's really a microwave guy. Kurt Tang, another great scorer, had 15. And then Jeremy Fears only had 8 points, but 13 assists and just commands their offense. I think with this Michigan State team is they fit perfectly. It's a perfect Tom Izzo team. I mean, you have Cam Ward, a true freshman after the game, talking about how they punk people and they make people not want to play basketball. They're diving on the floor. They're tough. They're unselfish. Extremely high assist rate. Don't turn the ball over very often. They out rebound you. I mean, they had overall I think 10 more defensive rebounds than Kentucky, and then 4 more offensive rebounds. Like that's their bread and butter. That's how Tom Izzo likes his teams to be. And there's no standout. You don't have to worry about a guy like taking all the shots, ball hogging, having the ego. Like they fit perfectly together, and I think they're going to be dangerous. And this put everyone on notice. But it still feels like they're being slept on a little bit. We'll see how AP poll comes out tomorrow morning, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Monday,
we'll
it's the
see.
morning.
We'll see how they are there. I mean, our guy Gary Parrish. We're a big fan of their podcast, but he only moved them up like one spot after like because he does his daily, and I was like,
Mhm.
that you dominate Champions Classic puts you up by one spot this early. But yeah, what did you think, Anthony? I know I'm a little biased when talking about
Yeah,
Michigan State.
I thought it was like you already mentioned it. Jeremy Fairs, you were on the dot. You said I think he can have a double-digit assist game. He's gonna control the game. Cohen Carr was pretty good. He was kind of quiet, but he had some great moments. Just box score wise, and then you were right on the dot. Jeremy Fairs double digit assists. Just really an elite point guard performance game. Just really in control. Jackson Kohler, he was super good. 20 points, five
Yeah.
rebounds, 8 for 12. That's a guy that Brandon, you and Scott had really touched on that he's going to be really huge if MSU is going to have the season that they envision. He's been really good in both of MSU's really big tests so far in Arkansas and Kentucky. And then you already mentioned it. Trey Fort, Cam Ward, even Kurt Tang. He was really, really good
Curtain.
too. So yeah, but I think, like you mentioned, had a really good point about Cam Ward and Tom Izzo, how saying like this is he's the epitome of a Tom Izzo player. Like um, they're gonna punk people. I think I saw on MSU Twitter, Cam Ward had a clip where it's like you don't work hard to like
It,
another
yeah,
in like an AAU game.
it's from Peach Jam. And he has like an
Oh,
and one or whatever. He's like, you don't work hard. Like, I mean, like, come on, that highlight, like people, yeah. MSU Twitter found that pretty early. I think after the Arkansas game when he went off, and I mean, yeah, that toughness, that you don't work hard. Like that's what they're rolling with.
that is, and like yeah, like you guys said, MSU was so impressive. They've really
Yep.
looked really great against so far their two big tests, Arkansas and Kentucky. And now shifting the focus to Kentucky, like you said, Brendan, you had Mark Pope had a really long post-game press conference. I've already seen some stuff on Twitter and just asking Kentucky fans on our TikTok, what do we think is their biggest issue? There's a wide range of factors. They've said coaching, players not getting along, chemistry issues. I've already seen some stuff on Twitter, like, talking about Otega always like
Hmm.
body language in the press conference. Like that's it's so funny, but
Not
I
the
mean
body language.
that's how serious it is for Kentucky fans. I was wondering what are your guys' thoughts? Maybe any concerns of Kentucky? They dropped they dropped the game to their rival Louisville, and then now
Yeah.
didn't look the greatest against MSU. Any thoughts about Kentucky so
Um,
far?
I'd say they have a little bit of some chemistry issues going on, but obviously that happens with a handful of teams early on in this season. So I think they'll get adjusted. They have a great coach, so and they get JQ back, and I feel like once they get a couple more games, a couple more non-con games under their belt, I feel like they'll be better off as a squad and as a team, and they'll really put the foot on the gas ahead of March. So
They really need JQ. I think
yeah,
they
that's
need
the
a
X factor.
defensive
That really
anchor.
is the X factor too.
Yeah, and I don't know if this quote was real because I feel like I've seen a couple like fake things from like burners, but I think it was Otega Owe talking about how like their effort wasn't there or they weren't like ready or something along those lines, and everyone's like, if you can't get ready for a primetime game at Madison Square Garden, what game are you going to get ready for? This isn't like Mercer in your home gym until you start out slow because you couldn't get up to play them. Like that seems like an issue, and I think they'll be okay because they're, in my mind, I believe they're well coached. I believe they're talented, and especially when you have a reinforcement coming that fixes a glaring issue, which is the defense. I mean, Michigan State's not a great shooting team, so I think it can be two things that explain 50% shooting from the floor from a bad shooting team. One, they had a good night, but then two, they were making a lot of open looks. Any team is going to shoot better than their season long percentages when you're leaving them open. So the defense needs to be corrected for Kentucky, and Quaintance is just a guy who makes everyone better on that end of the floor. I mean, we saw it firsthand last year a lot. So they definitely need him back, but I think they'll be okay for now at least.
Right, I agree with you guys. They got to get it fixed. Some pretty big tests coming up. They got in December North Carolina, Gonzaga, Indiana, and then St. John's. So they gotta get it going. And like you said, if JQ comes back, I think the timetable. I've seen people say like mid-December, maybe right before
Mm-hmm.
conference play. So that could coincide with getting him back for conference play, and then really starting to put your foot on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah,
shout out Jeremy Fears, who's leading college basketball in assists right now, I believe.
yeah, I saw a tweet where they mentioned the pace he's on, like it's to maybe like outpace Braden Smith, and that'd be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That would be insane.
So yeah, moving on to the next game of the Champions Classic, another game where we had high expectations, but unfortunately, right before or the morning before, we got news that Darren Peterson was going to be out for this game and out from probably the immediate future for Kansas. I know he's out for the Players Era tournament. This was a game where Kansas actually was pretty much in it, we had in our notes. Kansas started off well, but eventually it just seemed like they ran out of gas. And Duke, it's a quality win for them on a neutral court. Any thoughts from this game?
Yeah, I'd say Duke just the better team. won this game. Again, Kansas started off pretty well early on, but then kind of burnt out. It's kind of a shame Darren Peterson was out because they actually got some good scoring out of some of their other key players like Trey White. You got 22 points, Council 15 and 6, Badunga 14 and 6. So if Darren Peterson actually played in this game, they really had a legitimate chance to win because Darren Peterson is a absolutely phenomenal player. So, but yeah, Duke still looked great. Cameron Bouger looked great. Isaiah Evans looked great. I think he's playing with a lot of confidence this year, which is really good because I feel like his skill set is really great and he's a really great shooter for them. And yeah, Duke looks great. Kansas, if their players keep playing like this when Darren Peterson gets back, they'll be fine. They'll look good. So those are my thoughts on this game.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Kansas did get some help, and I think that's partially what happens when a guy like Darren Peterson gets out. I mean, you have to fill some sort of void, even just in terms of shot attempts, right? And the focal point of your offense. And I think, maybe we look back down the line and say Peterson being out, especially this early, helps Kansas a little bit. It helps some guys get confidence. Guys like Trey White, Melvin Council, Forey, Badunga, even, maybe like a Bryson Tiller, Jaden Dawson played a lot of minutes coming off the bench. And so I think it forces guys to step up. So hopefully when Peterson comes back, um, there will be a better balance offensively. More guys will feel comfortable scoring the ball. Teams will have to respect more guys more. So I think it could help them in the long run. And they competed well. On the Duke side, Boozer is just a double double machine. And then Isaiah Evans is absolutely playing with a ton of confidence, and it's nice to see like a former 5-star recruit, or maybe it was a high four, who didn't get a ton of minutes last year. I mean, he had his moments, but I mean they were so talented last year that he
Yeah.
just had to wait, and he
Hmm.
he waited. So it's refreshing to see a guy stick around and not hit the portal, and now he's being rewarded with those minutes, with the amount of shots he's getting, and kind of having a green light and taking advantage of it. So I always think that's good to see in this landscape of college basketball.
Right, right, definitely. That was a guy that I think Evan had touched upon in the first episode that he was pretty high on. He's expecting big things out of Isaiah Evans,
Yeah.
and then when the news came out, I think it was around the springtime. Evan, I remember like a conversation we had talking about Duke and Isaiah Evans, and I was like, I think he might enter the portal just because I think they said he was coming back to school. So
Hmm.
that was a guy that, like you said, Brendan, it's good to see that he stuck with it and like he's really been producing. So that's good to see. Kansas wise, I think you guys touched on it. They got production out of Trey White, Melvin Council, Floyd Badunga, but not much else. But I think that, like you said, Brendan, that could be a good sign, especially once Darren Pearson comes back. You have guys who can give you production. But that does suck because, like you said, Evan, if Darren Pearson were to play, that's a guy you can like chalk up like 15, 18 points a
Yeah.
game. So that would have been the main difference. I thought on the Duke side of things, Duke started off kind of slow. It was pretty competitive
Yeah.
early on in the first half, but eventually they just turned it up, and the second half it wasn't as close as the first half. But yeah, but like you mentioned on these notes, Brandon, what do you guys think is the ceiling for Kansas without Darren Peterson?
I think this like the ceiling for them without Darren Peterson is honestly what we saw against Duke. I mean, Duke is good, so they lost, but like the performance Kansas put together is that's like a good enough performance to beat, maybe anyone in college basketball like outside like the top 15 or top 20. Like it's kind of what you can ask for from without your best player. There's gonna be nights where you don't have guys step up like they did, where Trey White doesn't have as good of a night. I think we kind of saw their ceiling, but that ceiling is good enough to pretty much beat anyone in the Big 12, especially if they're at home, outside of Arizona and Houston. Maybe Iowa State, but so I think it shows that they can survive without it. They're not this dumpster fire who now they're susceptible to some resume breaking losses that are going to follow them till March. They should still be able to take care of business, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Brendan. I think they can survive, but if they really want to get over that hump and try to contend for like Final Four, national championship, um, they're going to need Darren Pearson back for that, while also having their other players keep performing as they did against Duke. So
Right.
yeah,
That's a team where you could buy stock in right now. A little foreshadowing
Wow.
into into the
stay
future.
tuned.
Right, but yeah, Kansas will be all right. That they Council Trey White, Ladunga was really impressive. They were able to survive, like you said, Brendan. Um, Moving on to another game that was on Wednesday
The
night.
Mets just traded
Oh,
away Brandon Nimmo
oh really?
Really?
for
No
A
way.
Marcus
little breaking
Simeon.
news on the pod action.
What?
Wait, what?
Oh,
That
No way.
hurts.
No way. No way. No
I'm sorry to
way.
for
interrupt.
who?
I've
No,
been
you're good. This is breaking news.
no.
Oh,
Oh, if Scott was
can
here,
you imagine?
if Scott was here,
Whoa.
Wow. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
The floor is yours, Rico.
I just hate that they traded away Brandon Nimmo, a guy who's been a Met forever. I thought he had a good year. Why?
Wow.
who reported that?
Wow.
Pass
Jeff
him.
Passan.
Pass.
Yeah. Jeff, I'm gonna text him.
Wow.
Be like, why did the Mets do this?
Wow. Can you imagine if Scott
Hey,
was
you
on?
guys get Marcus Simeon though.
I
Simeon's a
know.
dog.
Simeon's good. It's
I wonder what that means for McNeil.
right. You're getting an infielder,
Right.
and
Wow.
so Simeon at second. I mean, but they played Jeff
Oh
in
yeah,
the
that's true.
outfield. No faith in Acuna.
Wow.
I don't know.
That is
Totally
crazy.
off topic.
That is the first like surprising breaking news we've had on this
No,
pod.
I just was
Yeah, it is.
so off. I don't know. Maybe I
Wow.
haven't been paying attention enough to the Mets to think they're even shopping Brandon Nimmo. I just okay.
That is, yeah. We'll see if Scott happens to text any of us, but and we'll let you guys know what his thoughts are. But wow, that is interesting. If Scott was here, he would be freaking out. But
Yeah.
going to another very not surprising, but very intriguing game that happened on Wednesday. Arizona versus UConn, a battle of two top five teams, two teams that have been really impressive this year. Um, we made some predictions beforehand and posted a video on TikTok with some Arizona fans. Let us know
Yeah,
their thoughts, and
U of A
we're
fans
not
were on our
we're
heads.
that's right. We're used to that. Coming from attending
And I
ASU,
don't care. It
we
still
know
forks up.
that's right. We know how loud Arizona fans can be, and they were pretty loud in our comment section. This was overall like a really great game. What were your guys' thoughts?
Um,
First, or no, go ahead, Ivan. Floor is yours.
okay. Yeah, Arizona's just like a force. They're playing really great ball right now. Probably the best ball in college basketball right now. Koa again looked great once again. Jen Bradley continues to play good at the point guard position for Arizona. And the one key factor of this game that we have down is definitely the rebounds. Arizona out rebounded them 43 to 23. 20 more boards than UConn, which is absolutely insane. You're like just never going to win a game when you get out rebounded that bad. And a big part of that was who was it? Taryn Reed being
Terrence
out,
Reed.
which really blew for UConn. That was a really huge blow for them.
Yeah,
So if he was in that game, it would have been different, but he wasn't, so we had to live with it. And Arizona continues to look good. They're a top three team in my eyes right now. And yeah,
yeah. I think just for me, because we had said this was going to be a really good game, so I don't want Arizona fans to think that we completely just counted out Arizona. So we said this is going to be a great game, and I think the main factor we said is that this being at Gamble, this being at UConn, we just gave the benefit of the doubt to UConn. But then hearing, like you said, Evan, hearing that Terrence Reed was going to be out for this game, like literally like an hour and a half before this game even happens, that was really a huge blow for UConn. I think you touched on it. Like the rebounding differential was huge, 20 rebounds, 20 rebound margin, and then even offensive glass, Arizona had 13 offensive
Yeah.
rebounds, UConn had 6 second chance points. paint points. I
Yeah, it
thought
was just Payne was so
you
sweet for
right,
UConn.
right.
Jeez.
Even Koa P, he was able to attack that. And he had a really good game. 16 points, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks. Like he was super impressive. That was a guy that we had thought that maybe he would be held in check because UConn has a lot of great athletes in Jalen Stewart. If Terry Reed were to play, Alex Caravan. So that was super impressive. I thought Rybo was really good in Terry Reed's absence, 15 points, 4 rebounds. Um, but yeah, I think for UConn, they just needed more out of Alex Caravan and solo ball. Caravan at 8 points, 2 for 5 from the field, and solo ball 14 points, 1 for 8 from three. I think that was one of the biggest differences because you had a great game from Jalen Stewart. You had a great game from Silas Demery. Um, I just thought that was the big difference. You need more out of Caravan, especially when Scott had just mentioned I had just really highlighted Alex Caravan after the BYU game. To have a little bit of underwhelming performance like that, that was underwhelming. But I think for me with Arizona, I think I'm done picking against them because they've shown nothing for me to pick against them. Um,
Hmm.
Jaden Bradley, he's playing like an All-American. He's been such a great closer. Like down, there's been 3 games now where Florida, UCLA, and now UConn, where he's just taken over, and he's been great. Shout out to Arizona, shout out to Tommy Lloyd for scheduling these tough games so early on in the season for giving us 3 great games. Um, yeah, I think Arizona's gonna be my number one this week.
Wow.
First of all, my
Cinema.
apologies to Arizona. Um, I not only did I pick UConn, I think on the record I said by double digits, so I'll eat that one. Although UConn was missing Terrace Reed, I do think that changes the game. I don't think UConn wins by double digits, but they might win. But that's not the game that was played on the floor, so it doesn't matter. Um, I think yeah, Jaden Bradley is unbelievable. Kopi, of course, has continued his terrific freshman campaign, doing what he does on the biggest stage, double double on the road against UConn. Like just another one of those games. Like after Florida, we were shocked because it was like, okay, if he's doing it against Florida, who can't he do it against? And we're just kind of seeing that continue to unfold. And then credit to Arizona, I think the you guys touched on it, but the rebounding. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
UConn only had
Crazy.
23 rebounds
yeah,
in the full 40-minute basketball game. That's unbelievable. I mean, this game is so weird. Arizona only made two threes. They didn't make a three against Florida, I don't think, in that win. So they're just a very unique team, at least in this era of the sport, where it's so outside driven in terms of the offense. They're tough. They'll rebound the ball, but they also had 9 assists to 10 turnovers. Like, how often are you going to beat a UConn at their place while having more turnovers than assists and only making two threes? Like, it was a weird game. Um, and I think the biggest differentiator is absolutely the rebounding. And credit to Arizona, Krivas had 14 boards. Koa Pete had 12. We just talked about him with his double double. And then Toby Waka coming off the bench had 7 boards in 14 minutes. So I mean, they just have some bruisers who they know their role, and it's really impressive to have a group that where guys know their role this early. Usually, I think that takes time. Um, I'll circle back to Michigan State, but it's similar with guys that know their role. Purdue is another guys that know their role. In Purdue, you have guys who've been there, and Arizona you have a mix, but I think they're my number two. I have Purdue over them still, just because let's not pretend like Purdue doesn't have a outstanding resume as well. And I think I test like beating Texas Tech by 30 is insane to me. Um, but Arizona is extremely impressive. Hats off. I was wrong. They can let me have it. That's fine. I'm wrong a lot. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention this popped up on my timeline on Twitter. It might have popped on in your guys's too. That Arizona right now is really hot, but maybe they're too hot. And when it comes down to March, they could choke again because they're not a pretty. They're pretty in March. So, but they have a pretty tough team this year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if
I
they'll choke again, but
I think
it's not
there is
looking good.
some merit to that in the sense of, like I said, most teams take time to have guys know their roles, and Arizona I think is ahead of the curve in that. So they're ahead of almost everybody right now in that. So they're blending really well. Like I think a lot of teams this early were far from seeing their ceiling, but like Arizona's just already showing their ceiling. I don't know how much better they can be, which is fine. Clearly, they're outstanding right now, but other teams are going to catch up. I don't think it's Arizona choking at all. I think they are ahead of the curve. Their group is months ahead of teams right now, and that's kind of what we're
Yeah,
seeing
and
in
they're
their big
doing this
wins.
without really not that much production from Brain Burries, which is another star freshman that which they had coming in. So when he gets
Yeah.
comfortable and he gets um, into the offense, starts playing his role, starts having a better offensive role, then that's just another piece of the puzzle. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I guess kind of a quick question in terms of like Arizona in the future in the for the future forecast. In terms of the Big 12, does this do you guys does this make you think that they could like leap a team like Houston in the Big 12? Because I've seen some Arizona fans in our comments saying that they would
I
whoop Houston, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with whoop Houston,
Whoop
but they
is
could
crazy.
definitely give Houston a
yeah,
game. But that is definitely an intriguing storyline
I
to be
think
honest
they
with
could
you.
definitely like leap Houston. Houston's still good. Don't get me wrong; they still got a lot of dudes, but they've been struggling a little bit, just like a little bit at some points. And then Arizona's just been like curb stomping
Mhm.
everybody, so they just look better right now. But you can't count out Houston. You can't count
Right.
out Kelvin Sampson and all those guys. So, but right now, definitely a possibility they could
Mhm.
just absolutely jump them. But can't be too optimistic on that.
Yeah.
If the two teams played tomorrow, I would pick Arizona, but
Yeah,
Houston is going to get the ball rolling. Like I think
Right.
Houston's kind of earned the like something has to look really wrong with them for
Right.
me to pick against them in terms of winning the conference. I think that's just the respect that they've earned over the last 2 years. Like you, it's gonna take more than. It's not like Houston's looked bad. Like Arizona's looked great, but like it just would take a lot to for me to pick someone else besides Houston to win the conference because of how much they've earned that respect the last couple of years.
Right. I agree. I think you guys all touched on it. Like Evan said, it's hard to pick against Arizona right now just because how great they've looked. But then, like you said, Brendan, Houston, they've earned that respect. Um, just the past few years, how great they've been. Um, so yeah, moving on to some other great programs and a great game actually too, which we actually said that this is going to be a really fun game. Alabama versus Illinois. This game was also on Wednesday. This was the nightcap. Um, yeah, Alabama came out with the win against Illinois. Really back and forth game. What were your guys' thoughts?
yeah. Alabama's guards looked great again. Phylon and Holloway. I didn't really get a chance to watch too much of this game because I had work in the morning. So, but yeah, they played great. Stojakovic and Keelan Boswell, I saw played really good for Illinois. Um, but yeah, it was a fun back and forth game when I was watching it. And Alabama, another great win to put on their resume. So they've been looking really good. Besides their loss to Purdue, but yeah, if their guards keep it up like this and they get a little bit of some more play from their big men, they can be a scary team. So
Yeah, really fun basketball game, and I think with Alabama, the key here was they. I mean, Laverne Philon was the not the best player in the game, but I mean, he was electric. But it showed that if you're Bama, they can get it done on a night where a guard does have an off night. When you look at that backcourt, like Holloway, like was 4 for
Yeah.
11. Like 11 points is fine, but it was a below average game for him. But they still had guys, step up. Just really well rounded. Taylor Bowen with 12, Bristow 10, Amari Allen off the bench with 9, Houston Mount off the bench with 10, and then even Aiden Sherrill, like in all essence, might have basically not played this game because he played 9 minutes and got 4 fouls in those 9 minutes. And so there's your starting center who is rendered ineffective pretty much, and you're still able to overcome that and win against a very good Illinois team, a very talented Illinois team. Stojakovic was incredible, and
Yeah.
as Pac-12 guys, we've been familiar with him for a while now. Same with Boswell, and
Mhm.
that duo is really fun. And so yeah, I think this was what we were expecting in terms of a fun toss-up game. I didn't really know who was going to win. I think I ended up picking Illinois just because it was in Chicago. Um, but credit to Bama, they have a really tough non-conference, and to go away from the South and to play. This is on neutral site, but like this is kind of the kind of neutral game that like sucks when you look back on it because basically it's a road game. But if you're like comparing resumes, if you're Bama and you're trying to get on the 2 or 1 line later in this year, it shows up as a neutral instead of a road game, even though it's practically a road game.
Right.
Um, but yeah, just a fun high level basketball game.
Right. I agree. I think like you guys touched on it, everything. Phylon was great. Like you said, Brandon, Alabama's bigs were able to really keep Illinois' bigs in check. 'Cause that was the main point that we had touched upon that we were interested to see because like Illinois, they have the big men to really trying to kind of negate or like slow down Alabama, but Alabama was able to that didn't stop Alabama. So that was really intriguing. I thought really up and down. I think just my overall takeaway from this game was that both of these teams are great. I didn't come across as like I had any I had any concerns about any team. I thought both teams played great. It came down to the wire. Like you guys touched on it. Stojakovic and Boswell were great, and then just Bama's guards. LeBaron Fallon was great, and then they got some big production from their bigs. Now moving on to another game that we kind of touched on already earlier in this pod, but Purdue versus Texas Tech. This was in the Bahamas. Purdue defeated Memphis before this game, and then Texas Tech had a nail biter against Wake Forest. This was the championship game for this event. Purdue just completely blew out Texas Tech. They went on a 26-3 run at one point in the game. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, like you mentioned, this was like just straight belt to ass for Texas Tech. I remember I was taking a nap. I wake up, I check my phone, and I see this team lost by 30, and I'm like, holy moly, this is crazy. But yeah, Braden Smith had a pretty okay game. He had a 10-7, which is pretty light. So, but Oscar Clough had a great game. I'm pretty sure he had 15 and 15 or something like that, and they had like I think 5 people in double digits for points. So they were spreading the floor out. They were spreading the ball out. And yeah, Purdue, still an elite squad. And for Texas Tech, other than JT Toppin and CJ Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
who else do they have that could really score for Texas Tech? I know they have LaJuan Watts because I know him because he was an Eastern transfer like 2 years ago, and then he went to Wazoo. Now he's at Texas Tech. He's really talented, so when he gets comfortable, he could maybe be another piece to their puzzle. But yeah, Purdue looked great. Showed out in the Bahamas. Probably went to the beach after, had a couple drinks, and yeah, had a fun time. So
Dude, their fans were crazy. If you watch the game, like they were loud. It
Purdue
was
fans
yeah,
are crazy,
they yeah
like in a
they
good way. Like it's
uh-huh
compliments. Yeah,
yeah yeah. Like Evan, you said 7 guys in double figures for Purdue.
yeah, it
Crazy.
was a lot.
Yeah.
Purdue. I mean, I don't even have much to say on it, but I mean, it's a 30-point game. There's not much to talk about besides, yeah, for Tech, from your standpoint, okay, where's the other offense coming from? 2 guys in double figures and Topping and Anderson, and those are the guys who can score. Okay, you can win games. You can win a lot of games with Topping and Anderson and be fine. But if you're Texas Tech, I think you have high expectations. You want to compete at the top of the Big 12, and you want to, compete for Elite Eights and Final Fours and beyond. And it's hard to do that with 2 offensive threats, at least on a consistent basis, and that's the thing to watch with them over time. from Purdue's standpoint, just so incredibly balanced. I mean, it's not like any guy had an outstanding game besides Oscar Clough did 15 and 15,
Hmm.
but it's Braden Smith, 10 points, 7 assists, like solid game for him. That's if we're at the end of the year and you're just going through his box scores, you're like, man, that's like one of his worst games of the year. He didn't play
And it's still a
bad,
pretty solid game
but
for him. He
yeah,
almost had 3 assists off a double double. So
right. I mean, it's more of a testament to him and the level he plays. But like, it was just they didn't need to work hard to beat Tech and do it easily. And Tech kind of fought back a little bit in the second half. I mean, only were outscored by 7 in the second half as opposed to like by 23 in the first. But yeah, I think you start to be concerned if you're Texas Tech and Purdue looks like preseason number one.
Right. I agree with you guys. I think another guy that I was really impressed with for Purdue was CJ Cox. 10 points, 4 for 8 from the field, 2 for 3 from three. He was really good. I was just setting the tone of the game. Um, Setting the tone of the game, being physical, being a guy where you get production outside of, Fletcher Lawyer, Clough, Trey Kaufman, Ren, Braden Smith. I think for Texas Tech, I think we touched on it before already, like who can be a consistent scoring piece outside of Toppin and Anderson because they combined for half of Texas Tech's points in this game. Just I don't know, like because I think they'll be fine because like Brendan said, when you have a guy like JT Toppin who's arguably the best player of the sport, you're always gonna have a fighter's chance in any game. But yeah, this is pretty concerning. I think they really miss a guy like Darion Williams. Um, but I think they'll be okay. But because you have JT Toppin, but Purdue is still elite. Evan, you've kept them in your one spot
yep, still
throughout every
there.
week. So
Still gonna
yeah,
be there.
that's, what does this game to you guys say more about like Purdue or Tech in your opinion? Like how impressive an elite Purdue is, or like maybe your concerns about Tech?
I would say for me, I think it's more of a concern for Texas Tech, and like we've mentioned, how they can find more production outside of Toppin and Anderson. And again, they have other players to do it. Like we mentioned, Cox, you said, had a pretty decent game. They also have Wallahan Watts. So they have other players. But yeah, if I'm Texas Tech right now, I'd be pretty concerned. I'd be like, yo, besides these 2 players, we need some other people to step up. So
For me, it just highlights how good Purdue can be, how high their ceiling is. It says a lot to me about Purdue, just the balance. They're winning without their skyscraper and Zach Eady, right? Like Smith, especially people who I've talked about with Braden Smith before over the last few years. It was always okay, what's he gonna do without Zach Eady, and just he's able to adjust and lead a team. And Purdue, I mean, just like dominant. It says the most to me about Purdue.
Right. Yeah, I think back to Braden Smith. That's it's kind of funny, like seeing him like be so elite because that's a guy like we've heard about you and me and Preco, we've heard about since like his high school days about with
Hmm.
shout out the mixed community, editing community. But it's kind of
Yeah,
surreal actually. But he's so elite. He's the way he can control the game, the way he's just able to command the point guard spot.
yeah.
Like you guys touched on it, Purdue's just elite. So yeah, moving on to another game this week. BYU Wisconsin, two really fun offensive teams that we've touched upon in this podcast. BYU just completely blew out Wisconsin, but it was another game like you said, Brendan, like kind of like a de facto home game. It was in Salt Lake City, but it's gonna say like a neutral game. Um,
Hmm.
but what are your guys' thoughts on this game?
um, yeah, I think this just shows that BYU is also a very elite team. I think it also shows that other players other than AJ can beat you because we just had Richie Saunders, who is could be white boy of the year at the end of this, but he had 26. So yeah, he played great. Rob White played played pretty decently. But yeah, BYU's a fun team. I really like their roster, and I really like their style of play. So they're a fun team to watch.
I think there was some, maybe it was just me, but some questioning with BYU after their kind of slow start. They played close games against opponents they shouldn't have, and then of course lost to UConn, which losing to UConn in itself isn't bad. But it was just I was so high on them entering the year. It was kind of like, oh, okay, was I wrong? But they really answered the bell. Just the offense finally clicked. It's a scary offense. Shout out AJ DeBansta for scoring 18 points on three made baskets. That's NBA caliber right there. But yeah, I think Richie Saunders shows he's an all Big 12 caliber player. I haven't mentioned Rob Wright, double double. And just had a bunch of guys overall just score, and yeah, their offense when clicking is scary.
Right. I agree with you guys. I think another guy who I was really impressed with, Dawson Baker. He's been a guy that's been really stepping up for BYU, especially with Kennard Davis out. Especially if he's going to miss an extended period of time. Dawson Baker's really stepped up. 12 points against UConn and now 11 points against Wisconsin. I think that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, outside of Saunders, Wright, Keita, Devonsa, who was gonna maybe step up, at least be a good role player for BYU, and they found players who can do that. So credit to them. I think that really makes their ceiling higher.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, great win for BYU. Any thoughts on Wisconsin, guys?
I currently do not have any thoughts on Wisconsin.
I
I
mean, the
Blackwell,
defense is
yeah,
worried, but yeah.
yeah. I mean Blackwell, Boyd, and Winter were great, but outside of that,
Well, even
Carrington was good.
Blackwell
Yeah.
didn't like shoot it well,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't know yet. The jury's still out on Wisconsin. I kind of
Mhm.
still don't know how I feel about them.
Got you guys. Got you guys. So yeah, that will finish the recap of all the games um, that we have happened this week since we last recorded our podcast. So now, since it's Sunday afternoon, we're gonna pick our teams of the week. Starting off with Brendon.
I am delighted to announce that my team of the week is the Arizona Wildcats. I think I had to pick them after I predicted them to lose by double digits. Huge road win, true road game, and the basketball capital of the world, right? And yeah, credit to them. They look great. They look like a number two caliber team in the country. No, but they look great and a huge win, and so I'll give them my team of the week honors, despite I'm wearing an ASU shirt right now. I have to give credit to them. Hats off.
All right, and then swinging it to Evan.
So my team of the week's a little bit different. I actually picked Troy. I picked Troy. Troy had two absolute hell games this week. First of all, they played San Diego State, took them to two overtimes, beat them. What was the score? 108 to 107. So that was crazy. And then 2 days later, you're driving up to SC, take them to three overtimes, lose off an absolute crazy buzzer beater. So hats off to Troy, man. They were battling it out this week with San Diego State and USC, and they scored a combined 214 points
Ooh.
and five overtimes over those two games. So shout out to Troy. They're competing. I know they didn't go 2-0. They were 1-1, but shout out to the boys.
Shout
I
out
was
G-Fed. He was in attendance for that Troy USC game.
he
Guys,
was
100 days, 100 stadiums tour. He had to leave early to catch a flight.
he was dude. I respect the pick, Evan. That was a dude. The Miles Bird half court shot to send it to overtime for
Yeah.
SDSU was crazy, and
Yeah,
then
it was.
and then you got the USC like crazy like running 3-pointer, which
Yeah.
dude that was one of Rico's sleeper teams. So that was a big shot for him.
Ah, yes, it was a big shot for me. Yeah.
So, so yeah, I respect the pick. So respect the pick.
Yep.
My team of the week, I'm going with Purdue. We already touched on it. They're still elite. Um, they win the Bahamas championship. They defeat Memphis in game one. It was a really weird game. Only won by 9 points. It was a really back and forth game actually. Memphis gave them kind of the run for their money. I don't know if you guys saw the clip of Aaron Bradshaw where he fell on the floor and then he because Oscar Clough pushed him and then he fell on the floor and then
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I did see that. I did see that.
that
That was
was
funny.
really that was interesting. But then I think that just encapsulates Memphis. But then yeah, it was a really weird game. Really because yeah, guys falling all over the place because it's in the Bahamas, really humid, and then it was just a horribly officiated game. Um, no surprise who the referee, one of the referees was in the game was Tony Padilla. So no surprise, Brendon knows. But yeah, and then you defeat Memphis, and then you completely just blow out Texas Tech, going a 26-3 run to end the first half. Super impressive. Um, I think this team's still elite. A little bit of a scare against Oakland, but like Brandon had mentioned, they had no TKR in that game, so it's kind of too harsh to really judge them. But they're still elite. And yeah, my team of the week's Purdue. So, yes, sir.
Solid, solid.
Yes, sir. And unfortunately, our next segment was gonna be spaghetti and meatballs, Scott's Big East segment, but unfortunately couldn't make it today. He missed out on reacting to the Brandon Nimmo news too, so that would have been an all-time clip. But
That would have been all time. I don't think he's seen it yet. I don't know where
oh
he
my
is.
god.
He
Yeah,
hasn't
he
been in the
posted it on
group
his
chat.
story on Instagram, so he's aware of it.
Oh, he just didn't want to voice his opinions in the group chat.
Wow, it's Hollywood. Hollywood. But yeah, so unfortunately he couldn't make it. I think Xavier had another game. They lost to a nail biter against Georgia, so that doesn't help the Big East. But and then um some one team lost a bye game, I forgot. But so yeah, Big East not looking good so far. And then you have the UConn loss to Arizona. But yeah, and then moving on to our next segment, it's called the stock market, where we're gonna draft two teams that maybe have been disappointing or have been disappointing so far this season, or maybe have surprised us this season that you want to invest in long term. Um, so for example, you could buy a team that maybe had high preseason expectations, but so far have maybe dropped a couple of games, have been on the downswing. You want to buy their stock low because you think it's going to rise up eventually throughout the season, or maybe a team that's been a sleeper and you think you buy their stock now, it's only going to increase. So first pick, we're going to draft two teams. A snake draft. First pick going to Evan.
So my first pick, I'm gonna go with Kentucky. I think their stock right now is pretty low off of some of the losses they've had. Again, didn't look the greatest against Michigan State. Um, but yeah, it's still early on. Really talented team. Their X Factor comes back soon, so he'll play a huge role. So I'm investing my stonks into Kentucky basketball.
Sure. Respect it. Good pick. Good pick. And then swinging it to Brendan.
Okay, I'm next. I'm okay because I'm basing kind of their stock off the AP poll right now. I make this. I'm investing in Gonzaga. They've been good.
Mm,
I think their stock is trending fine, but they're 13th in the AP poll. I think they're a better than that. I mean
absolutely.
they haven't played a single digit game yet. Destroyed Creighton. Beat Oklahoma by 15. Beat Arizona State on the road by 12. And then their bye games, they won by like 50. They beat Southern Utah by
Yeah, they
72
beat
Oh,
by
points.
yeah.
70
I don't care who
points.
you're playing. Like
That's
that's
insane.
um and they're about to play in the Players Era tournament, so they got Alabama and Maryland in that, and then depending on how they do, they could be playing the championship there. So I'm not gonna hint at a later pick in the show, but I think their stock is gonna go up and soon. So I'm gonna buy some shares in Mark Few's program.
I like that pick. That's a team. Evan knows Gonzaga, but that was
Yep.
a team that I think, like you said, Brandon, they could very well just run through the WCC this year, and then like you said, big test in the Players Zero tournament, but I like that pick. I like that
They
pick.
are
That'll age well.
not projected to lose like any of the remaining games, like on Torvik. Like
Yeah,
they're favored in all of them.
could be a
Really?
very
That's insane.
could very well be a very high earning stock. Like the pick. Now to me, I'm going with a team um that has gotten some love in the AP poll, at least for us. I don't know if they're ranked quite yet in the AP poll, but in our poll, they are ranked for sure. A team that um, is currently 5-0, hasn't been tested yet. Don't really have too big of a test, honestly, until conference play. So they could very well enter conference play undefeated. A team that um, is lights out on offensively, brought in some nice transfers. Currently, I'm going with Vanderbilt.
Wow. Okay.
Like you mentioned,
I,
Brendan,
they're on my
one of those
list.
one of those Ken Palm darlings. They play in the what's tournament again? One of their tournaments in Feast Week. They play another Ken Palm darling, St. Mary's, which should be, if they match up in the championship, should be a really fun game. Their second Vanderbilt's second in adjusted offensive efficiency, sixth in effective field goal percentage, second at taking care of the ball, second lowest in turnover percentage. 39th in three-point percentage. They've looked really impressive so far this year, can shoot the lights out, have scored 100 points in 4 out of their 5 games. Going to Vanderbilt for my first pick. I think that they could surprise some folks in the SEC this year.
I'm
So,
mad at you for
especially
that one. They were on my list.
especially if maybe Kentucky's on the downswing, you know? Vanderbilt could rise up the ranks. We never know. So, my next pick, because it snakes to me, I'm going with a team that I would actually I didn't really expect anything coming into this season, but I was super impressed with just watching a couple of their games, even in their tournament this past week, and even they gave a top 10 team a run for their money a couple weeks ago. I'm going with Wake Forest. I
Wow.
think they played Texas Tech, gave them nail biter, only lost by 1 point. And then they defeat Memphis on a buzzer beater. Miles Coven, a guy that you mentioned, Brendan, before, Purdue transfer, he's looks really great. And then
Hmm.
they gave Michigan a run for their money. So for their advanced stats, they're pretty middle of the pack, but I think they have some really fun athletes, a lot of versatile players. Um, I think they can make some noise in the ACC, especially I think that latter half of the ACC. We know Duke, NC State, North Carolina, will be in that top range of the ACC, Louisville, but they can make some noise. That middle pack of the ACC, hopefully make the tournament. So I'm going Wake Forest, and then swinging back to Brendan.
Swings back to me. I'm gonna go with it's one of my sleepers. That I picked in that sleepers draft from what was the last show, right?
Mm.
Or was yeah. I'm taking Iowa. They're 25th in Torvik right now. They are currently. Let me triple check. I don't think they're ranked. No, they're not ranked,
No, they're not. They're
and
not.
they've only received 3 votes in the AP poll, so they're pretty slept on by those journalists. But the last 10 games dating back to last season, they're like third in offensive efficiency, adjusted offensive efficiency. This year, ninth overall in adjusted offensive efficiency, second in effective field goal percentage, fourth in free throw rate. They get to the line. They are first in the country in their 2 point shooting percentage at 70%. So they're getting a lot of just high quality looks. They're converting them. This offense is looking good. Their lowest scoring output so far this year was 77. They've put up 93 times. Now they haven't played anyone yet. Well, I mean Xavier, but uh, so now we're gonna see their real test. They have a neutral site against Mississippi, and that's part of one of the tournaments. I'm forgetting which one. Um, but one of those MTEs. So they'll play I think somebody at least decent after
Ole
depending on
Miss, Ole Miss.
yeah they play Ole Miss, but then
All right, sorry,
depending
my bad.
no you're good. I think they have the chance to play somebody good after depending on
Okay,
how the brackets shake out.
gosh.
But and then they start conference play hot. December 2nd, they go on the road to East Lansing for their first conference game against Michigan State. But I talked about them a lot. My sleepers pick. I'm high on Iowa. It feels like their stock is kind of untouched right now. Not getting they got 3 votes in the AP poll, and so I'm gonna buy some shares. I think they're gonna be ranked, and I think they're going to be ranked entering conference play. I think they're going to have some big wins over this holiday week.
So they play super impressive. I've watched a couple of the games. Very, very intriguing play style.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, sir. And now moving on to Evan.
Okay, so my last second team. This team is 5-0. They haven't really played anybody yet in their non-conference schedule. They don't really play anybody until December 9th. They play Illinois. Um, I think this team has one of the best guards in the country. He's a Big Ten guard. He's pretty underrated. I wouldn't say he's underrated, but he hasn't really been talked about a lot this year. And that team is Ohio State and Bruce Thornton. I'm picking them. I think Bruce Thornton is a really, really skilled guard and one of the best in the Big Ten. He's been there all 4 years. So I'm investing some stocks in him and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I feel like they could really make a run. They really don't play anybody. They play Notre Dame next, but they don't really have another test until Illinois, December 9th. And then I think North Carolina a couple days or a week after. So excited to see how they do. And yeah, it's my team.
I respect it. That I had Bruce Thornton as one of my preseason, I think Big Ten teams or my All Americans, just because he's such an elite scorer. But yeah, sorry,
He's,
with you,
he's
Rico.
no, he's really good. Oh, it swings back to me.
Oh,
Oh
I
wait,
mean,
no,
I
we're
mean,
only
what,
doing
what,
two.
what were you gonna say? Yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say Bruce Thornton's a very high caliber guard. Ohio State's an interesting pick. They do have
They are.
I forget where they are this week, but they're in a when I was looking at brackets, there's so many of the MTEs, but no, they definitely have some chances on the horizon to make some noise or to for their stock to tank.
I think Ohio State's a very volatile team.
Hmm.
Opening their opener in IU Indy, 118-102. That was a really
Crazy.
interesting game. But they're a volatile stock, so I respected Evan playing it on the edge.
Yep.
But they can make some noise in
Yes,
the Big
sir.
Ten for sure. They have the
Yeah.
offensive firepower. So
hmm
yeah. So the picks are Evan went with Kentucky and Ohio State, Brendon with Gonzaga and Iowa, and then me, I went with Vanderbilt and Wake Forest. Sir. And that,
I got the clear winner, I think.
whoa.
Well, no, we're gonna check in a month, and all of these teams have tanked.
But yeah. So that was the stock market segment.